Bonefish.
Welcome back to Bonefish.
What's up?
Yeah, I went to Bonefish Grill.
That's right. I saw that you sent over some dispatches.
I recorded some field tape. I'll just give you my bottom line take.
Yeah, let's hear it.
It's way more formal than I expected. It's really like good for happy hour. Go there, get the bang bang shrimp, get a couple drinks. They're relatively cheap, and have a blast. Fire off some emails, whatever.
Update your CV. Yeah, that's too bad about the
Yeah.
formal thing. That's definitely goes against the Bonefish ethos.
Yeah, I don't know. Maybe there'll be an opportunity for collaboration and growth between the Bonefish podcast and Bonefish Grill, the restaurant. We'll see. We'll have to discuss internally before we decide if we want to move forward on any potential branding or marketing.
Yeah, I think it's definitely in the cards for sure. We've been going back and forth with them, and a couple more details to iron out before we get some limited edition appetizers, drink specials in there.
Yeah, we're trying to rebrand their Bang Bang Shrimp as Fireworks Shrimp.
Yeah. We could brainstorm some Animal Collective themed cocktails or seafood dishes.
Applesauce.
There you go. Just a plate of applesauce. It's unclear there's any
Strawberry jam.
tie to Animal Collective. Yeah, just doing them all straight, literally.
Strawberry jam with a vodka shooter. Some pickles marinated in LSD.
Merriweather Prawn Pavilion.
Yum.
Let's see. Eels. Instead of feels. Anyway, it's Bonefish Pod coming back at you. Your favorite music podcast discussing the weird, the experimental, the psychedelic, the out there, and as always, Animal Collective. And speaking of seafood, we are completing our Panda Bear series today with his most sea-themed record. That is, of course, Buoys. Before we get to Buoys, do we want to do Bonefish Recs? Do you have something, or?
Yeah.
Okay.
Bonefish Recs.
Recs.
We recommend something that is not new. Anything that didn't come out in the current calendar year. So I'm recommending something that came out in 2021. It's called Floating Mountains by Soshi Takeda. He's a Japanese electronic producer. Really cool. He works with a lot of, I guess, kind of retro gear, synths, drum machines from like late 80s, early 90s.
Nice.
Very vibey, summery, retro vibe. I mean, you feel like you're in a Japanese garden in the summertime. Really sparkly, shimmery. It's a great listen.
Nice. I'm looking at the album art right now. Pretty tight. Pretty psychedelic.
Yeah. This album, Floating Mountains, is his only album so far. Check it out. Let me know if y'all like it.
Looks tight. Well, this one is not really summery, but I think I'm going to go for the album Dysnomia by the band Dawn of MIDI.
Ooh.
This is on my mind because of our pal Rusty Santos, who AC heads will know as a engineer, collaborator of the band, recorder of Sung Tongs, also worked on Person Pitch, and Buoys, topic of today's discussion. He was a big collaborator on that as well. But he engineered this record by Dawn of MIDI called Dysnomia. These guys are really tight. This one got released back in 2013, so over 10 years ago. And I saw them open for 10 Tricks Point Never back in the day. And it's a really mesmerizing live performance and just a really mesmerizing album overall. It's sort of like a jazz trio. It's like a drummer, an upright bass player, and a pianist. But they do not play jazz trio music at all. They play sort of crazy, repetitive, pattern-based like grooves. It kind of almost sounds like an electronic sort of record, but again, it's a acoustic jazz trio. Real kind of crazy polyrhythmic grooves, and one song sort of evolves to the next. Really good like fall listen. So as we enter fall here in the next couple months, definitely good something to put on. Yeah, real trance-inducing. They opened for Radiohead back when this record came out. Johnny Greenwood's a big fan.
Makes sense.
And
Fit.
Yep, still keep coming back to this album. So if you haven't heard it, definitely check out Dysnomia by Dawn of MIDI.
Shall we?
Let's do it. Buoys. Released 5 years and some change now ago.
Yeah, February 8th, 2019.
It's a tight 31 minutes.
Love that.
Really only 2 or 3 minutes longer than A Day with the Homies.
I'm seeing a lot of 30-minute records recently in the past couple years, and I feel like that really is the sweet spot, I think, for our attention spans. It's either got to be like 30 minutes or an hour and a half, either go big or go home.
I feel you.
But yeah, this is Noah's 6th album, and it was kind of recorded around the same time, or kind of produced and developed, around the same time as A Day with the Homies. These songs were played live together, but they are two very different palettes.
Super different.
For sure. Gone are the beats and the rhythms on Buoys. Gone are the synths. And you got this kind of, I feel like there's the acoustic guitar, of course, some light percussion, but I'm getting a very 8-bit quality sort of from these songs. Some of the little sounds coming in and out, I feel like I almost think of like Mario Brothers or something, or like, getting a little power up and
yeah.
Do you get that vibe at all?
For sure. Really, really interesting album, this one. I mean, with every Animal Collective record, with every new Panda Bear record, it's always something new. It's always a vibe shift, but this is our first like major shift, at least in Panda Bear's records. It's a totally new chapter and a real downshift, I would say, in terms of, it's small. It's there's lots of space.
Yeah.
There's lots of little sounds that are sort of just left to be small, and
yeah.
It's totally diff. It's totally new for our boy Noah.
You could also say Person Pitch was a vibe shift from, Young Prayer, because that was a fully acoustic album. And I thought it, kind of looking back at some of the things Noah has said about this album, and I think you interviewed him around this time for Song Exploder, but I know he said that this felt like the beginning of something new for him. And looking back at that now, it doesn't quite seem like that. It seems like this was just like a detour, and he kind of came back to his more bread and butter flow with Reset.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, looking back, Reset
was a reset.
Totally, and it's interesting to think how much of the pandemic had to do with that. You know, this came out in 2019, right before. So no pandemic. Maybe he continues down this path, or maybe not. You know, who knows? But yeah, definitely interesting.
Yeah.
Because at the time this felt like, oh, new chapter, new direction, and now it maybe seems like, oh, maybe more kind of flash in the pan sort of experiment. This zone sort of started when Panda and AV took the road for the Sung Tong shows.
The reunion shows in 2018, yeah.
Picked up the acoustic guitar for the first time in a while. And while kind of practicing and relearning the Sung Tongs, he started writing other bits and other little tunes. And that's what became Buoys. In fact, the tunings on Sung Tongs and Buoys are the same. He kind of had the acoustic guitar in the same tuning zone.
That's interesting. I was going to say his guitar playing, it's pretty distinct. It's kind of odd. It's kind of not naive, but it's kind of like a refined primitive approach, his guitar playing on this album, especially the picking, and I like it. It's just it's very distinct, and it's kind of off, but not in a bad way, if you know what I'm getting at.
It's different. I mean, it does not sound like Sung Tongs, even though they're in the same tuning. This is not, this is not freak folk. This is not free time strumming. This is something else. I mean, this is basically acoustic trap music, which is how many other records can you think of that are acoustic trap?
Going to that, it does have that with the autotune. It has that mix of, like Sung Tongs mixed with SoundCloud rap almost.
Yeah.
Which was very popular at this time. The other interesting thing I saw is I know he said that making this album, he wanted to make, sounds that sounded good to kids and younger kids, who listen to stuff like, Travis Scott or whatever.
Yeah.
But to me, it's like, well, that was kind of the music you were making when you actually had like beats and, in your songs. And that felt more modern to me than to his ears what Buoys ended up being. So I felt like, to me, it's the opposite. It doesn't sound like that contemporary. His older stuff sounded more contemporary is what I'm trying to say.
Yeah, I feel you there. I mean, that's, the real key difference with this record than his previous ones and ones after this are the choice and collaborator. Mm-hmm. He's been rocking with Pete Kember for a handful of records now. But for this one, he tapped Rusty Santos, as mentioned.
Hell yeah.
And at the time when he reached out to him, Rusty was living in Mexico City, producing stuff like Latin trap, sad trap, reggaeton. And so this collaboration is kind of the key mix of Buoys. It's sort of filtering Noah's stripped down acoustic tunes through this sort of prism of like trap production.
Dad trap.
It's not sad trap, it's dad trap. I read in one interview while they were working on it, Noah was like, if Rusty had his way, there probably would have been no acoustic guitar in these songs at all. Like, he really wanted it to be like all like digitally produced and like, so that's
I think that would have been really interesting. I would have loved to hear that. Because, I mean, to me, as acoustic as it wants to be, it still feels very much on the grid, if you know what I mean, and kind of locked in a little bit.
For sure.
And it has this kind of 2D quality to it, even though, like, that is not the case with, like, say, something like Dolphin, which is, like, very multidimensional to me, and the production's so amazing. But it does feel a little on the grid, and I'm wondering if maybe getting rid of that would have really changed the game, or it maybe would have just sounded too ridiculous, for Noah to do. I don't know.
It's funny you mention that. I also feel like listening to this record, I find myself wondering, like, I wonder what this album would sound like pushed totally one way or the other, like pushed all the way electronic or just pushed totally acoustic. Like, and speaking of Song Exploder, you do hear his little acoustic demo in there briefly, which gives you a little idea of what it could have maybe sounded like. But it's plastic sort of sounding, digital, not in like a Strawberry Jam way though, and like even more
Yeah, no.
kind of like MP3 direction. You mentioned it was like sort of aimed
Right.
for like people with a younger palate. He also mentioned like trying to balance, it sounding good on like really big speakers, but also on like laptop speakers, like AirPods.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's a quote from Noah from Rolling Stone where he says him and Rusty would listen to Migos, Bad Bunny, and Ozuna every morning when working on this album, which is shows you a bit what where their headspace was at.
Cool.
Another big departure, of course, is the voice. He talked about how he sort of pushed his old methods to the extreme and wanted to do something new. As we said, he's sort of foregoing the dense layering and harmonies and, super soaker reverb for something really clear, really high in the mix. I mean, this is probably the most legible lyrically records of like any Panda Bear albums or Animal Collective. Like his voice is really crystal clear.
That's true. It's true. Yeah.
Dabbles in auto-tune. And there's still effects on it. It's pitched.
Are you yay or nay on the auto tune?
I think it's cool. I think in general, I'm not the biggest fan. I think it's used subtly on this album, and it's sort of like they kind of play with it in cool ways. Like there's moments where he's kind of singing like in between two notes, and you can kind of hear the auto tune trying to like choose between the two notes, and there's sort of this cool like. Synthetic vibrato. To the end of the road. If it were like T-Pain levels, that would be something else, but I feel like it's more or less tastefully done. The delay maybe is another question. I mean, there's so much like just sort of slapback digital sounding delay all over this record on his voice. On his guitar, and it's a pretty like loose delay. Like it seems like the one thing that's maybe not super on the grid, it's like a few BPM off in either direction. Like it kind of lends this sort of like sloppiness to some of the rhythms. But yeah, it's still, despite these effects, it's still up front and really clear. And that's also a way it kind of relates to like hip hop production, is like the arrangements are so kind of spare and empty, especially in like the vocal frequency range. There's really nothing at all competing with the voice. It's kind of like almost like a Drake song where it's like positioned to where the vocal has all this room to sort of do whatever. That's a big departure from previous, his voice, we're used to it kind of being in the soup of sonics and swirling around, but here it's really standing like above and apart from it. Even the acoustic is pretty quiet on a lot of the songs. I mean, it's definitely there, but it's not like Sung Tongs Who Could Win a Rabbit acoustic, where it's like a My Bloody Valentine wall of sound. It's very much like just there, and that's it. Even though this is like acoustic based, he's not playing guitar for these live songs. It's kind of his like sort of pseudo DJ setup where he's kind of playing the stems.
Yeah, which is weird. I know my buddy didn't really like that. I saw it with my buddy, and he was like, "Be cool if there was a guitar, or if he wasn't playing like on the grid or whatever. If it was, he was hoping his setup would change, basically."
Yeah. I guess Noah himself was hoping for that at one point too. He said in one interview that he was considering doing like a Buoys band for this tour. That sort of had like a Violent Femmes thing where it was like kind of acoustic and like simple drum set and like bass and but I guess that didn't come together ultimately, probably just for practical reasons. So he kind of did his little DJ thing, which. Yeah, I mean, a Buoys band would have been awesome, and I think would have really lent this era a different vibe and flavor. But alas, it was not the case. One thing about that, like...
What's up?
that would have been sick is like if he had done this like acoustic band thing, like sort of a Violent Femme setup, then he would have like it would have been really cool to hear like other era Panda Bear songs in this like acoustic band setup. You know, if he didn't have his like usual
Yeah.
rig, he would have sort of been forced to like imagine like him playing Bros on acoustic guitar. You know.
Yeah. I think it still might happen. Maybe Sinister Grift.
Yeah, we'll see. That definitely seems to be a sort of live
More
band
so.
flavor to that. Alrighty, should we get into the tracks?
Yeah.
Dolphin. Opener, first single.
Love it.
Solid track.
Definitely.
Kicks off with a Galaga sample
Yeah.
of like a spaceship dying or something like that.
No, that's cool. I didn't know that. This one I really like. I remember it being the first single and being really surprised and getting really excited. His singing style I felt like was really new ground, kind of this more just more unadorned crooner style, even though there is some interesting vocal effects on here, or like for like a split second a part is auto-tuned or whatever or something.
Right. There's some parts that are real pitched down and auto-tuned, which is cool.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's very much like accompaniment to the vocal, not like we don't have our like dual Noahs or like multiple Noahs that we usually have. This is one dude.
Yeah, and you have these like subterranean bass drops, and I don't think it's an interpolation, but I think he was sort of humming along to this Ethiopian jazz song called Tazeda by this guy named Mulatto Estatke. I might be mispronouncing that, but I mean, you've probably heard this song. I feel like this song has gotten rediscovered and become very popular, especially in like LA and just being around in LA and like jazz clubs and stuff. And so he kind of hums that melody to that song. That song's also sampled at the end of a Fleet Foxes song on Crack Up.
Oh, really?
Yeah, at the end of the song Another Ocean, the last few seconds, very briefly, that same song is sampled at the end. And it's a great track. If y'all haven't heard it, definitely check it out.
Yeah, apparently it's got mad water energy. Another Ocean and Dolphin. Yeah, it's really pretty. It's like an acoustic, and then the lead is like this sax. And if you hear it, the melody for Dolphin, Noah's singing something really close to like the sax melody.
Yeah.
Yeah, this was the track we did on Song Exploder.
Oh, nice.
And another cool thing Rusty said during this interview is that the main part of the technology that's used in autotune was like a byproduct of developing of the science behind like mapping ocean floors with like sound or something. And that's kind of like one of the like technological breakthroughs that like opened the door for autotune, which is really strange. I don't really get how that works, but yeah, it's, I guess speaking of the whole aquatic theme here.
Do you like the little water drops sounds?
You know,
I feel like that's
they're pretty loud.
A pain point for a lot of people.
They're a little on the cartoony side, but I find that once the song kind of kicks in and starts, I sort of stop paying attention to them, and I'm just listening to the song. I remember Anthony Fantano, I think, described it as like Chinese water torture. He was like, "Why the hell would you do this?" Like, it's not totally new.
I
like,
agree.
Animal Collective has used water sounds in the past. Like, Summertime Clothes is like the bubbles popping. Obviously, Noah has used like bubble sounds and water sounds on previous records. This is like, it is really high in the mix.
I get what he's saying. I think it's the repetition and how often it comes in. It's like kind of annoying.
Yeah, it literally replaces the snare. I mean, it's
maybe if it was like every other bar or something, but it doesn't bother me that much. Like once he starts singing, you forget about it, or it doesn't really annoy you. But
I guess that was a contribution from DJ Liz, who was
oh
one
wow,
of the collaborators on this. I guess
oh cool, I didn't know that.
she was working with Rusty at the time. She's like a Chilean trap artist. And that was one of her contributions. She was like, this should be a water drop instead of a snare. And if you hear his demo, it is a snare. The little demo that's included on Song
Wow,
Exploder.
I thought
The drum beat's a snare. There's no water drop.
to me it's such a Noah move. I thought definitely because they're just so known for always having that one little sound that throws everything off. But in this case, it wasn't him.
Yeah.
Yeah, love this track.
Sweet little lullaby.
It's got almost 2 million plays on Spotify, which is kind of surprising.
One of the standouts from this record, for sure.
For me, it is the standout, I would say.
Your fave track?
I think by a long shot. Yeah.
Ooh. Nice. Cranked. It's track 2. This one was a grower for me. I definitely like it more now than I did.
Yeah.
It's a weird track.
Yeah.
Got echoey acoustic strums with like crazy laser shots.
Yeah. I like it. I like how it's just random and kind of not badass, but yeah, I like it. It is a weird song.
Yeah. I like the way it builds up. Like the kick comes in, and like a little bit the other way, and then we make a plan.
Yeah.
And this is one I could see if they had that live acoustic band, I could see this one really starting to get some people going.
That's true, yeah. But yeah, even the
nice
sort
little
of
pick up to it.
even the sort of, catchy vocal lines like that one you just mentioned that, can pick up pace, and they never really fully kind of take off on this album. They're kind of subdued and almost like just kind of brush by you. Even though there are like the classic, like catchy Panda Bear lines on here, they still are kind of undercover, right?
Yeah, I agree. I mean, he talked a lot about in the press cycle for this how there's a lot of like implied rhythm, whereas like a lot of his old records are obviously very explicitly rhythmic, but this one he talks about leaving space for sort of like implied grooves. Even Dolphin's a good example of that, where the guitar is really like this kind of swung groove that reminds me a lot of Prospect Hummer. But then the beat is not swung. The beat's very like straight and sort of makes this tension between this like swung and unswung rhythm. And yeah, I think it's like this, there's an implied groove there, but not one that's like really explicitly spelled out. And yeah, I think the same is sort of the case with a lot of the other kind of like arrangement choices. Also, speaking of those laser sounds, this was another Song Exploder insight, but apparently those laser sounds are 808 kick drums that have been pitched up like super high. Apparently, if you pitch up an 808 kick, it sounds like a laser shot, which is
Nice.
interesting.
I love it.
Track 3, I think, is my personal fave on the album. Token.
Boing. This is the 8-bit sort of bouncy 2D video game quality I was talking about.
Yeah, this one's got the real fast like finger picking, which is kind of in a cool rhythm.
Yeah.
This is one where I feel like the kind of combo acoustic trap really works. I really like the little like drum hits and the 808s here. I think, it's interesting reading about him making this album. It sounds like, yeah, he had all these acoustic songs written. And then I think once they figured out Dolphin and how to combine the sort of 808 trap stuff with the acoustic, that was sort of the blueprint. And then they just kind of like applied that to the rest of the songs. And I think in some cases it really works well. In other cases, maybe a little bit less so. But I think this one, in terms of that experiment goes, is really pulled off nicely. Yeah, I really like the melody. And I think the chorus, too, is really wonderful. Like, I know we were just talking about how some of the songs, sort of stay in one zone, maybe don't totally push the envelope all the way into somewhere new. This one, I feel like when the chorus arrives is like a it does feel like there's sort of this moment of like change or like
Yeah. A slap on a jelly ass.
instantly iconic Panda Bear line. I picture like SpongeBob for some reason. I picture SpongeBob's little hand like slapping
Yeah.
a jelly ass.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, this also has over 1 million streams, 1.2. This and Dolphin are the most streamed on the
The
album.
two most streamed.
Yeah, people like this one. This one, I like forget that it's good, and then I listen to it, I like it, and then I forget again. You know,
Don't forget, bro.
I know.
Next up, I Know I Don't Know. Distorted whistling.
Yeah, that is a thing, and that happens in this song.
I think that whistling is Dino de Santiago, a Portuguese singer who I think maybe was also working with Rusty at the time.
Yeah, I might be. Is it a she?
Dino is a he.
Oh, okay, never mind.
He might have some backup vocals, maybe in some of the tracks,
Yeah.
but they're not super prominent. Anyways, what do you think of this one?
I mean, not one that I really return to. I feel like kind of what you said, they nail the mission statement on Dolphin track 1, and it's not kind of applied as well or as thoroughly to the rest of the songs. Like Dolphin has like a multi-dimensional vibe to me, even though it's minimal and everything's kind of low key. Like it's like it's interesting and it's like textural, but the rest of the album so far, I mean, the rest of the album for me, it feels flatter. It feels like not as well executed as on like Dolphin. But that's just me. I don't know.
Yeah, I think that's definitely the case for this one. I mean, like I said, I really dig Token. I think that one is another great product of the experiment. But yeah, this one is maybe on the lower half of this record for me. There's some cool lyrics in it. I like Can't Remember When We Last Lost Ourselves. Some cool like pitch down vocals on the like kind of like he's melting.
Yeah, I like that part. I do like that. Yeah, that's the thing. It's like little lines and nuggets I'll really like, and then that'll stop, and it's kind of broken up throughout this album.
Yeah, I don't know. The phrase like low impact comes to mind, which I also feel like is the case with Master.
Agreed. These do kind of blend in for me. To be honest, it's kind of hard to recall them, even though I've listened to this album 9 million times probably. But I think, one of the things that our boys like to do is test an idea that's exciting to them, with Buoys being the kind of trap idea with kind of the weird acoustic stuff mixed together, or something like Painting With, where it's quick songs in and out in an electronic style. But that doesn't always like produce like an amazing end result, but that's not what they're going for. They're taking process over end result almost. And
Yeah.
hey, I respect that, that keeps you on your toes. It works a new muscle in your mind, but it doesn't always result in music that's like, good, I guess, for everyone else. But sorry, wait, no, this music is not bad. I mean, it is not bad. I'm not trying to say that. Do you know what I'm talking about?
Absolutely. I mean, they're artists and they take an artistic approach over a product approach, I mean, this is a big experiment just in the same sense that Person Pitch was. It just, very different things happen. They're at very different times in their lives. And
yeah. But I know somewhere out there that there is a Panda Bear fan whose favorite album is Buoys.
Well, Ian, we had on our last episode about homies. He really, really digs Buoys too. So I wonder.
Oh, nice.
It might be interesting to hear his thoughts on it. But
Jet ski.
yeah, Master, and I Know I Don't Know. Bit of a mid-album slump here. I dig the verses on Master. There's some cool chord changes, like, and the pre-chorus is cool. My main issue is the chorus of this song. Next up is the title track, Buoys.
I like this one.
Same. I was really stoked about the live versions of this too. They hit pretty hard.
Far from the other
Those like crazy noise blasts in the chorus and stuff were really energetic. Studio version's a bit more laid back. His voice is really high in the mix. Echo and delay kind of all over. Yeah, I do dig this track, but I hate to be that guy, but I do think the live version is superior.
It's okay. Be that guy.
But yeah, it's a nice kind of uppity one on an album of pretty mid-tempo or like down-tempo stuff. This one's got a nice little bounce to it.
The album does feel like just trying to stay afloat like a buoy, It's kind of in this middle zone of existing.
Yeah, sort of a theme he comes back to again and again, kind of like dueling forces.
I like that part, leave it on the ground, go, 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 go.
Yeah.
Like that you could imagine if he was going all in, production-wise, it could really be a monster track.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe one day we'll get that, but
now is not that time. Neither is 5 years ago.
Go leave it on the ground. Go, 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 go. Go leave it on the ground. Go, 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 go.
boom. Number 7.
Inner monologue. Another highlight for me. This one's maybe a little bit of a darker palette than the other ones. We've got the crying woman.
Yeah.
Which is, sort of a bro's callback, but also I now just totally picture the Tomboy cover, Crying Lady.
Yeah, I thought that too. I thought the same thing.
The crying woman, I guess another suggestion from Chilean Liz. That and the water drop. Yeah, I like the little rhythmic switch up on this one. And then there's the kind of like huge one vocals that come in, which are kind of cool and different.
Yeah.
Another case of like, maybe pushing this acoustic track more towards this weird electronic landscape benefits it with these kind of weird choices.
Mm-hmm.
I always crack up at the wake up from a nap, be glad. Always kind of like fitter, happier vibes.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah.
Be glad. Do you like this one?
Yeah, it's all right. I don't really listen to it outside of listening to the album. I feel like people like this one though.
Yeah.
This might have been one of the first
popular one.
An early demo or something of Noah playing this acoustic. Might have leaked first, or at some point he released a video of him kind of just playing this song. I can see how it serves a purpose for this album as kind of the dark track at the end,
Yeah, a little bit in the way that like Tropic of Cancer and
Lonely Wanderer,
in the way those are like a little kind of dark departure crescendo. Cool, weird opening sound on this one.
Yeah, cool, weird sounds.
I guess he wrote the lyrics to this song the day after his mother-in-law passed away.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Which accounts for sort of the sadder vibe on this one. There's a line, go where the angels go.
Yeah, it's a good line.
Kind of has like last song on the album vibes for me, even though it is not. You can tell things are maybe wrapping up a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, these last two I maybe would say a little bit for me, like the middle two songs in this album kind of dip slightly.
Agreed.
Home Free is a solid closer. If it were up to me, just put Home Free right after inner monologue and
call it a day.
But yeah, I like Home Free. It's a little song that is content being a little thing. Doesn't really push to go other places. But I like the little like delay on the vocal on Home Free that kind of like repeats in circles. It's kind of a cool little touch. And then he has like a real nice falsetto kind of like ooh line on this one that's real pretty.
Yeah.
And then it ends with the see you around. It's the send off.
Yeah, thanks for carrying us over the finish line with these last two because I'm having trouble. I'm honestly having trouble recalling them, even though, like I said, I've listened to this album a million times, and as most recently as right before we recorded this podcast. But maybe that's a Justin problem and not a Buoys problem.
Yeah.
Does this rank above any Panda Bear album for you?
It does not.
Same. With the exception of maybe his 1999 self-titled YouTube album, which we will review one day, maybe as a bonus to cap off.
Well, yeah, I mean, to cap off the Panda Bear series.
Yeah, that would be fun. That'd probably be really fun.
I'm definitely down.
It's fun to do unreleased albums. Glad this album exists. You know, probably my least favorite Panda Bear solo album. I think my feelings on it hasn't really changed since it came out 5 years ago. How about you?
I'd say they have a little. The songs I like on this album, I've always liked. Token, Dolphin, Inner Monologue. There's a couple that upon revisitation are better than I remembered. I would say those being Cranked, Home Free, Buoys to some extent. But yeah, interesting what you said earlier about how now in retrospect, in a post-reset world, this record does seem like a little unique little island to those around it.
Unless, if you took away COVID, maybe Reset wouldn't have happened because it feels like Reset was almost made to cheer people up because of COVID. But without it, if you just followed Buoys with what is to come with Sinister Grift, maybe it is the continuation of something new. I don't know. We'll have to hear.
Yeah, we'll see. Maybe Reset will end up being the blip.
Right.
That's a good point. Yeah, and speaking of that, I think Buoys also was he was kind of motivated to have like a comforting sort of like album. I mean, he talked about how it was sort of a response to like political unrest. This is obviously post-Trump, but also, Europe at the time, and still there's a lot of crazy political shit going on. And I remember him saying like he wanted this record to be sort of like a salve for that, kind of like this pro-humanity, pro the weirdo. I think he says on Song Exploder, like this song's like a comfort song for the weirdos.
Nice.
The reviews of this record are pretty favorable, more so than I would maybe expect. I mean, I guess we could talk about Pitchfork, since we always do. They gave it a 7.6.
Which is good.
Better than Painting With.
But also, overall, Metacritic, the critics like this album more than the fans, at least what's on Metacritic. I think the average score on Metacritic for critics is like 70, and fans it's maybe a low 60s.
Higher scores than Homies and Painting With.
If you had to, would you pick Painting With or would you pick Buoys?
Painting With easy.
Same. Yeah. Even though Painting With gets a lot of shit, I feel like not even close.
No, yeah. No offense meant, of course. There are no bad Panda Bear records.
Still no bad Panda Bear albums.
That's hard to do. And folks, that's it for Buoys. That's it for our Panda Bear series. Or is it, I guess, if we want to do this. So if we want to do the self-titled apocryphal Panda Bear record, maybe that can be a Patreon exclusive.
Yeah, let us know if you want us to review his first record, which was released. I think it was the first release on Soccer Star Records, right? That the Boys did.
Yeah, I think Noah sort of disowned it though. He's kind of like, that was me kind of fucking around as a kid. Like,
hey, that's okay.
Yeah, it could be fun to dive into and check out. It'd be. I mean, I haven't listened to it almost at all, so it'd be cool to see like what, if any, sort of like seeds of his future work are strewn about across that record.
I think it varies in terms of styles. From what I think I've only listened to it like once, but electronic stuff and
there's some like instrumental. Yeah.
Alrighty.
Sick. Well, if you dig this podcast, you can get more of it on our Patreon. We've got exclusive episodes there, other goodies, and also you can join it for free as well. You won't get the exclusive eps, but you'll get the notifications, you'll get our little updates, and you can, just kind of pretend you're a bona fide bonehead. And then maybe one day you'll take the plunge, but that's patreon.com/bonefishpod. Check us out there. And follow us on Instagram as well. That's also Bonefish Pod. Getting excited for our next little season as we enter fall. We're going to be going spooky mode. We'll be talking Odd Sack, AV Tear slasher flicks, maybe a little down there. I think we should watch House or Houseu just because it's a big inspiration for the lads. I've never seen it, and it'd be cool to tap into that, maybe for a Patreon episode or something.
Yeah.
And until then, Bonefish out. Take it easy, folks.
I'm Justin. Later.
I'm Christian.
Bonefish.